afternoon, ma'am. You know why I stopped you?
No, I don't, officer.
You were doing 45 and a 30 coming down Oak, and you almost clipped a dog crossing the street right before this light.
I wasn't speeding. I just turned in here for
Y'all
my
can pull
lunch.
the cameras if you need to. We'll check the footage, but right now I'm going to need you to step out of the car. You're under arrest for reckless driving. We'll sort it at the station.
Wait, under arrest? I haven't done anything.
The timestamp reads 2:22 in the afternoon, and within the next 2 minutes, a woman picking up her lunch will be in handcuffs, charged with a crime she says never happened. Not midnight, not a tense situation, just the middle of the afternoon. The kind of hour when nothing dramatic is supposed to happen, when people are running errands, picking up food, and moving through their days without interruption. That's all she was doing. The body cam footage opens on a fast food drive-thru. Familiar, unremarkable, built for efficiency. A woman is seated in the driver's seat of a white vehicle. She is in her 50s. She is calm. She is holding a paper bag, her order, already received, already in her hands. No visible disturbance, no raised voices, nothing about this moment that suggests anything other than what it appears to be. A woman, a drive-thru, a lunch bag. Then the officer appears. Note how he approaches, not from the front, not from behind, directly alongside her window, in the particular way that immediately signals this is not a casual interaction. His body cam is recording, the timestamp is running, and his tone isn't curious, it's confirming. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Do you know why I stopped you?" She looks at him. Her expression doesn't shift. She doesn't panic. She doesn't reach for anything. She answers the way a person answers when they genuinely have no idea, because she genuinely has no idea. "No, I don't, officer." This is where it changes. The officer informs her she was driving 45 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone, that she nearly struck a dog crossing the road, that her driving had constituted a hazard serious enough to bring him to this exact window at this exact moment. She listens carefully. Then, still calm, still seated, lunch bag still in her lap, she tells him what she knows to be true. She wasn't driving recklessly. She pulled into this drive-thru to pick up her food. What he is describing does not match anything she experienced on the road that brought her here. A reasonable disagreement, the kind of moment that, in a procedurally sound interaction, would prompt verification before any further action. That is not what happened. Step out of the vehicle, you're under arrest for reckless driving. No skid marks verified, no camera footage reviewed, no independent witness consulted. Just one claim, one command, one decision. And that decision would later force the department to answer a single question that no one on that scene could answer in that moment. What exactly did he see that no one else did? If this already has you thinking, hit like and subscribe. Now, let's go deeper. She is still calm. That detail matters more than it might seem, because when an officer tells you that you are under arrest in a drive-thru in the middle of the afternoon holding a lunch bag, the natural human response is panic, confusion, emotion, and yet the body cam shows none of that. What it shows is a woman processing an accusation she cannot reconcile with anything she actually did, and responding not with resistance, but with the quiet composure of someone who believes in that moment that the truth is enough. She is wrong about that, but we will get to that. Under arrest, I haven't done anything wrong. 4 words that raise the first question this footage demands we ask. At what point between the initial stop and the order to exit the vehicle did the officer gather enough evidence to justify an arrest? Not a conversation, not a warning, not a citation issued from the safety of her driver's window. An arrest, the kind that requires handcuffs and a trip to the station and a booking process and a record that follows a person long after the moment that created it has been forgotten by everyone except her. Let's be precise about what reckless driving actually requires, because precision is what this moment demands. Reckless driving is not a minor traffic infraction. It is a criminal charge. And to support a criminal charge in virtually every jurisdiction in this country, an officer needs more than an observation. They need probable cause. Probable cause is not a feeling. It is not a suspicion. It is a legally defined standard that requires articulable facts, specific, observable, documentable facts that would lead a reasonable person to conclude that a crime had been committed. So here's the question. What were those facts in this moment? The officer claimed she was driving 45 in a 30, but there was no radar reading visible on the body cam, no speed detection equipment referenced, no printout, no data, just a number stated with confidence attached to a moving vehicle that was, by the time the camera started rolling, completely stationary at a drive-through window. The officer claimed she nearly struck a dog, but the body cam shows no dog, no animal, no bystander pointing to where a dog had been, no reaction from anyone in the surrounding area consistent with a near-miss animal incident that had occurred moments earlier. No skid marks on the road leading into the drive-thru, no visible damage to the vehicle, no civilian rushing over to confirm what the officer was describing, just silence where evidence should have been. And yet, the order stands. Step out of the vehicle. She complies, slowly, carefully, with the measured movements of someone who understands that the wrong gesture in this moment could make everything worse. She steps out of that white vehicle in the middle of the afternoon in front of a fast food drive-thru, and a young woman at the pickup window watches everything unfold with the particular expression of someone witnessing something they cannot quite believe is real. That witness matters. Remember her. The officer moves quickly now. The tone that started as inquiry has completed its shift into command. There is no pause for verification, no call to dispatch requesting camera footage from the surrounding area, no attempt to locate the dog, the road, the stretch of street where 45 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone allegedly occurred. Just the decision, already made, already committed to, already moving toward its conclusion. Here's what that tells us. An arrest made this quickly, without visible evidence, without witness confirmation, without any of the procedural steps that exist precisely to protect against mistakes, is an arrest that was not built on the ground. It was built on certainty. And certainty, without evidence to support it, is not probable cause. It is something else entirely. The handcuffs close. The body cam keeps recording, and somewhere behind that drive-thru window, a young woman is still watching, the only independent set of eyes on the scene, saying nothing, doing nothing, because nobody has asked her anything yet. Nobody has asked her anything yet. At this point, there were no skid marks, no visible hazard, no independent confirmation, just one claim and one decision. And that decision would not hold up for long. The station is quieter than the street. That's always how it goes. The arrest happens in motion, fast, loud, decisive. The consequences happen in stillness, in fluorescent-lit rooms, in the careful language of reports filed and reviewed and quietly questioned by people who weren't there but are now responsible for what happens next. She is processed, fingerprinted, logged into a system that does not yet know her name means anything beyond a case number. But somewhere in that same building, the report is being read, and that is where the first crack appears. The arresting officer's account is detailed, confident, written with the kind of certainty that comes from someone who believes entirely in what they saw. 45 miles per hour in a 30, a dog in the road, a vehicle that constituted an immediate hazard to public safety, an arrest made necessary by the severity of the situation. On paper, it reads cleanly, but paper is not evidence. The first question comes quietly, the way the most important questions always do. A supervisor, a second set of eyes on the report, someone whose job is not to validate the arrest, but to ensure it survives scrutiny. Where is the speed documentation? In a standard traffic stop involving a speeding allegation, particularly one severe enough to support a criminal reckless driving charge, there should be a corresponding data point, a radar reading, a laser measurement, a pace clock, something that converts a visual estimate into a number that can be defended in a courtroom. There is nothing. That absence is not automatically disqualifying. Officers do make speed estimates without equipment. Those estimates are sometimes admissible, but combined with everything else this report is missing, the absence becomes something more significant than a procedural gap. It becomes a pattern. Investigators pull the area's traffic camera network. The stretch of road the officer described, the 30-mile-per-hour zone where a vehicle allegedly accelerated to 45 and nearly struck an animal, should be visible, partially at minimum, enough to confirm the direction of travel, enough to place a white vehicle moving at an unusual speed in the moments before it turned into that drive-thru. The cameras show nothing consistent with the report. Now the second crack. The dog. Investigators ask the question the Bodycam never asked. Who reported the dog? Was there a call to dispatch? A civilian complaint? A prior radio transmission referencing an animal in the road in that area at that time? Nothing. No dispatch record. No prior call. No report filed by anyone in the surrounding area referencing an animal incident before, during, or after the arrest. So where did the dog come from? That question sits in the room without an answer. And in an evidence review, an unanswered question is not neutral. An unanswered question is weight, accumulating slowly, pressing down on the report beneath it. This is where it shifts. The young woman at the drive-thru window was located, the one the Bodycam captured watching everything. The independent witness nobody asked anything at the scene. She is interviewed. Her account does not match the officer's. She had been at that window for the duration of the relevant time frame. She did not see a vehicle driving recklessly in the lot. She did not see a dog. She did not see anything that suggested an emergency situation before the officer appeared alongside the white vehicle. What she saw was a woman pulling into a drive-thru to pick up food. That's all she saw. 3 missing pieces. No speed documentation. No camera confirmation, no civilian witness, and now a direct contradiction from the only independent observer on the scene. The case does not just weaken at this point, it begins to collapse under the weight of its own absence. But here is where the story becomes something larger than one arrest at one drive-thru on one afternoon. Because investigators are not just looking at this report anymore. They are looking at the officer. Prior stops, prior reports, prior arrests made with similar speed, similar confidence, and a similar absence of the kind of documentation that transforms an accusation into a provable fact. The patterns being assembled quietly in that review room are not yet conclusions. They are questions. But they are the kind of questions that, once asked, cannot be unasked. How many times has this happened before? How many reports filed with the same certainty and the same missing evidence? How many people processed through a system that trusted the confidence of one account without demanding the documentation to support it? How many cases that never got this far, that were plea bargained away or quietly dropped before anyone thought to pull the camera footage that wasn't there? The review is no longer routine, and by the end of that process, the justification for the arrest was no longer standing. The charges are dropped quietly. That's how it almost always happens. Not with a press conference, not with an announcement, not with the same energy that accompanied the arrest itself. The Bodycam footage, the handcuffs, the drive-thru window, the afternoon that was supposed to be ordinary. The charges arrive loudly and leave in a whisper. A filing, a notation, a case number that closes without fanfare while the person at the center of it is left to carry the weight of what happened long after the system has moved on. But this time, the system doesn't move on. The internal investigation that began as a routine review of one arrest has become something the department can no longer treat as routine, because the questions it started with have multiplied, and multiplied questions have a way of demanding answers that single questions never could. Here is what the review finds. This was not the first stop that looked like this. Prior reports, similar patterns, arrests made with speed and certainty, and a consistent absence of the documentation that should have existed at every single one of them. Not every stop escalated to an arrest, but the ones that did share something. A profile, a demographic, a particular kind of driver who was more likely to be pulled from their vehicle and processed through a system that rarely stopped to ask whether the evidence justified the decision. That finding changes the nature of everything. What began as a single question, what exactly did he see that no one else did, has become a larger and more uncomfortable question that the department now has to answer publicly. How far back does this go? Investigators are no longer reviewing one report, they are auditing a record. Every stop, every arrest, every case that was closed before anyone thought to ask whether the foundation beneath it was solid or whether it was built entirely on the confidence of one account that nobody verified because nobody thought they needed to. Because here is what Bodycam footage does that nothing else can. It doesn't have a memory. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't adjust its account based on what the room needs to hear. It simply records, timestamp running, lens open, and it keeps everything it sees with a fidelity that human memory cannot match and institutional convenience cannot erase. In this case, the Bodycam that was meant to document an arrest became the very instrument that unraveled it. The footage that should have confirmed the officer's account instead raised every question that account could not answer. The absence of evidence visible on that recording, no skid marks, no animal, no hazard, no confirmation, became the evidence that mattered most. That is not irony, that is accountability working exactly as it should. The woman who was arrested that afternoon, who sat in that white vehicle holding a lunch bag with the composure of someone who knew she had done nothing wrong, did not get her afternoon back. That cannot be returned. The arrest happened, the processing happened, the weight of being treated as a suspect for picking up food on an ordinary afternoon happened, and no dropped charge erases the experience of having gone through it. But something else happened too. Her composure, her refusal to escalate, her decision to comply carefully and calmly and let the record speak for itself meant that the Bodycam captured exactly what it needed to capture. Her behavior eliminated every variable that could have complicated the review. She gave investigators nothing to work with except the truth, and the truth was enough. This is where we land. The question was never whether an officer can make a mistake. Officers are human. Mistakes happen. The question, the one that this investigation forced the department to confront, was how far a mistake is allowed to go before the system corrects it. How many people pass through before someone pulls the footage? How many reports get filed before someone notices the pattern? How many ordinary afternoons get interrupted before the institution decides that one account without evidence is not sufficient justification for an arrest? On an ordinary afternoon, at a drive-thru window, holding a lunch bag. That question found its answer. And if this story made you think, if it made you look differently at the footage you pass every day without stopping to analyze what it actually shows, then you already understand why this kind of investigative storytelling matters. We don't cover these stories to generate outrage. We cover them because the details matter, because the gaps in evidence matter, because the woman sitting calmly in that white vehicle deserved better than what that afternoon gave her, and documenting exactly what happened is the least we can do. If that's the kind of content that keeps you thinking long after the video ends, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Every subscriber means the next story that deserves this level of attention has a better chance of reaching the people who need to see it. We'll see you on the next one.